At 58, I went from performing surgeries in a $4.7 million mansion to driving Uber in a rusted Honda Civic. All because my father-in-law happened to be the most powerful judge in Connecticut. My name is Dr. Dennis Radford, and 3 years ago, I was chief of orthopedic surgery at Hartford Medical Center. I had it all, a sprawling West Hartford estate with 8 bedrooms and a pool house larger than most people's homes, a wine cellar worth more than most retirement accounts, and a thriving medical practice that cleared $2 million a year. I drove a Mercedes S-Class. My wife, Beatrice, wore designer labels and spent her afternoons at the country club playing tennis with the governor's wife. Now I ferry drunk college students home at 2 a.m. for $15 fares, praying they don't vomit in the back seat because I can't afford Uber's $100 cleaning fee. You might wonder how a man can fall so far so fast. The answer comes down to one name, Judge Cornelius Blackwood, my former father-in-law, a man who practically ran half the Connecticut judiciary through golf course deals and backroom favors. When Beatrice decided she was done with me and ran off with her 28-year-old personal trainer, Rodney, the judge made sure I didn't just lose the divorce. I lost everything. You were useful while you kept my daughter respectable after her first failed marriage. He told me the day my medical license was revoked. But she's finished with you now. And when a Blackwood is done with someone, they disappear. He wasn't bluffing. Within weeks, every door in Connecticut slammed shut. Hospitals stopped calling. Applications were rejected before interviews. Even my country club revoked my membership for conduct unbecoming, though no one could tell me what that meant. Then, one Tuesday night, everything changed. An elderly woman, maybe 82, climbed into my car outside a mansion in Fairfield around 11 p.m. She wore pearls and a black wool coat that probably cost more than my yearly rent. She studied me through the rearview mirror for a long, silent moment. Then she said 8 words that stopped my heart. "You're Margaret Pauline Radford's son, aren't you?" My mother, who I believed had died of cancer when I was 12. The woman handed me a business card embossed in gold. Constance Drummond. "Your mother and I founded Pfizer's first real competitor in 1978, she said. "She didn't die, Dennis. She's been searching for you your whole life." I had to pull over on 95 because my hands were shaking too hard to drive. My mother hadn't died. She'd built an empire worth $47 million, and she'd left every cent of it to me. But the real shock wasn't the inheritance. It was what she invested in 15% of Blackwood Industries, my father-in-law's private company. She'd been planning something, waiting, and even though she passed away 3 years ago, right as my life collapsed, she left behind everything I'd need to destroy the man who destroyed me. Judge Blackwood thought he'd erased me. He had no idea he'd just clear the way for me to uncover the truth about my mother, about myself, and about the revenge she'd been building long before I was born. This isn't just a story about losing everything. It's about learning that the person you mourned your whole life never stopped protecting you. Even from beyond the grave, my mother was still fighting for me. You can take everything from a man, his money, his name, his career, but you can't erase his bloodline. And sometimes that bloodline carries more power than you can imagine. The night Constance Drummond entered my Uber began like any other. I was parked outside a Dunkin' Donuts, eating a $2 egg sandwich, my only meal till morning, when the ride request came through. Fairfield Avenue, the rich part of town I usually avoided, but I needed the $30 fare. I didn't know that within 20 minutes, everything I believed about my life would collapse. Before the judge destroyed me, I had the kind of career other doctors dreamed about. Each morning I woke at 5:30, swam laps in our heated pool, and drove my Mercedes to Hartford Medical Center. I performed over 3,000 successful surgeries. My hands were so steady the hospital insured them for $2 million. I pioneered spinal fusion techniques that cut recovery time by 60%. Medical journals published my research. Students from Yale came just to watch me operate. Beatrice fit perfectly into that picture. Elegant, polished, forever camera-ready. Weekly spa visits, personal trainers, discreet cosmetic work that kept her looking 35 at 48. She chaired charity boards, organized hospital fundraisers, and played the perfect doctor's wife. We'd met 15 years ago, when she was a pharmaceutical rep sweeping through our department in designer heels and a $1,000 bottle of wine for educational dinners. She was direct, ambitious, and saw the same hunger in me. "You want more than success," she said once. "You want to matter." She was right. I did. My father, Harold, worked double shifts at a paper mill to put me through school after my mother supposedly died. Your mother dreamed you'd be a doctor, he'd say, touching her photo, the only one he had. That picture lived in my wallet through medical school, residency, my first surgery. When I married Beatrice, Harold walked me down the aisle in a rented tux, uncomfortable among the governor, the mayor, and the judge's friends. Afterward, Judge Blackwood clapped my shoulder. Your father's a good man, Dennis. Salt of the earth. But you're in different circles now. Think about your image. I should have seen the warning signs. Beatrice slowly pushed Harold out of our lives. First Sunday dinners, then phone calls. When he died 5 years into our marriage, she skipped the funeral for a tennis match. But I stayed blind to what she'd become. For 10 years, we lived the picture-perfect life. Vacations in Monaco, charity galas, magazine spreads. Then came Rodney, the 28-year-old personal trainer with abs and no vocabulary. Beatrice said she wanted to get in shape for her high school reunion. She did, and she found herself a new toy along the way. That's where my downfall began. And that's where my mother's story, the one I never knew, was waiting to end is. The night I confronted her, she laughed. Oh, Dennis, don't be so middle class about it, she said, swirling her wine like the villain in a play. Everyone has arrangements. Daddy's had 3 mistresses over the years. Mother knows she has her pottery instructor. That's how civilized people handle things. But when I filed for divorce, thinking we'd simply divide our assets and go our separate ways, I learned that the Blackwoods had their own definition of civilized. Judge Cornelius Blackwood didn't just end marriages, he erased people. In his world, you don't leave his family. His family leaves you. And when they do, they take everything. The divorce papers landed on my desk one Tuesday morning between surgeries. Beatrice wasn't just asking to end the marriage. She accused me of physical abuse, emotional cruelty, and financial fraud. I actually laughed at first, assuming it was a clerical error. She says you've been hiding money offshore. My lawyer, Martin Frost, told me that afternoon. She also claims you're addicted to gambling and have threatened her life several times. Martin, I don't even know how to play poker, I said. I've never raised my voice to her, let alone a hand. He gave me a reassuring nod. Don't worry. Judges see through this kind of nonsense all the time. We'll clear it up. But Martin didn't understand who we were up against. 3 days later, at 6 in the morning, he called me, his voice shaking. Dennis, I can't represent you anymore. I'm sorry. My wife's pregnant, and someone just called to say it would be unfortunate if something happened during the delivery. I have to withdraw. 3 more lawyers refused my case. The 4th one finally told me the truth. Judge Blackwood runs this state's legal system, Dr. Radford. Any attorney who defends you will never work in Connecticut again. I've got 2 kids in college. I can't afford to be a hero. While I scrambled to find representation, the real attack began. The hospital received an anonymous tip that I'd been stealing opioids from the pharmacy. The security footage that could have cleared me mysteriously went missing. A nurse I'd never met swore she'd seen me writing fake prescriptions. Even my own surgical resident, the one who used to joke about my $1,000,000 hands, suddenly remembered me acting erratic in the operating room. Dr. Harrison Polk, the hospital's administrator and an old friend, called me into his office. Dennis, I have to suspend you, he said quietly. The board's demanding it. Harry, you know me. You know this is all lies. He couldn't look me in the eye. Cornelius plays golf with half the board. His nephew's our biggest donor. My hands are tied. Clear your office by 5. The divorce trial was assigned to Judge Frederick Morton, Blackwood's Yale roommate and golf partner of 30 years. My new attorney, a public defender named Carol, the only one brave or desperate enough to take the case, filed for a change of venue. Motion denied. Morton didn't even glance up from his papers. The trial itself was a masterclass in destruction. Beatrice appeared in a modest gray dress, her makeup subtle, her tears timed to perfection. He would fly into rages over the smallest things, she wept. If dinner was late, he'd throw plates. He told me that if I ever tried to leave, he'd kill me. I was terrified. Then came the evidence. Doctored photos of me at casinos. Bank statements from accounts I'd never opened. Receipts for gambling debts that didn't exist. A woman named Destiny testified that she'd been my mistress for 2 years and that I'd promised to leave my wife for her. I've never even seen this woman, I whispered to Carol. It doesn't matter, she said softly. Look at the jury. They believe her. Judge Morton's ruling was swift and brutal. Beatrice got the house for her suffering. My practice was liquidated to pay the fabricated gambling debts. My retirement accounts were seized for concealing assets. And when the medical board received the trial transcripts, they revoked my license for moral turpitude and unprofessional conduct. Afterward, in the courthouse parking garage, I found Judge Blackwood waiting. He was smoking a Cuban cigar, flanked by 2 state troopers. You know, Dennis, he said, I actually liked you at first. You were useful. My daughter needed respectability after her first disaster of a marriage, and you provided that. But she's bored now. She wants her trainer boy. And what my daughter wants, she gets. You destroyed my entire life over her affair, I said, shaking. He laughed, blowing smoke in my face. I destroyed you because you thought you could leave her. Nobody leaves the Blackwoods. We do the leaving. Consider this a lesson in how the real world works. Your degree, your steady hands, your middle-class pride, none of it means anything when you're up against real power. He flicked his cigar to the ground and crushed it under his Italian shoe. You'll never work in medicine again. Every hospital in New England knows your name. Every clinic has your photo on their do not hire list. Oh, and Dennis, your landlord just got a call about your criminal record. You have 3 days to move out. Maybe try under a bridge. The bodyguards laughed as they left. I just stood there, clutching a cardboard box with everything I had left. My office photos, my diplomas, and the picture of my mother I still kept in my wallet. When I got home, the eviction notice was already taped to my door. 3 days to vacate. I spent the next day calling every contact I had in medicine. No one answered. One colleague, Dr. Peterson, accidentally picked up. Dennis, I'm sorry. If Blackwood finds out I even took this call, I'm finished too. Please don't call again. That was the moment I realized the completeness of my ruin. I wasn't just unemployed. I was untouchable. I moved into a pay-by-week motel in East Hartford, where the walls were thin and the air smelled of cigarettes and mildew. The sheets were stained, and the neighbor coughed all night. I survived on the few $1,000s I'd hidden in my father's old toolbox. Money Beatrice's lawyers hadn't found because they never imagined I'd hide anything in something so working class. For 6 months, I applied everywhere. Pharmacy tech, equipment sales, billing, admin. Every application ended the same way. Employers Googled my name, saw the headlines, prominent surgeon loses license in abuse scandal, and the doors slammed shut. Even when I tried aliases, background checks caught up. A hiring manager at CVS finally told me the truth. Someone called corporate, she said quietly. They said if we hired you, we'd start failing DEA inspections. I'm sorry. I have a family. Pride is a luxury the hungry can't afford. When the cash ran out, I swallowed mine and applied to drive for Uber. They didn't care about licenses or scandals. Just a car and a clean record. I still had my mother's old Honda Civic, a 1998 model my father had bought used when I was in high school. Beatrice always hated it. Why keep that junk? She'd sneered once. Because it reminds me where I came from, I'd said. No, it was all I had left, and it was taking me right back to the bottom. My first night driving was miserable. I got lost twice, a drunk passenger threw up in the back seat, and the cleaning fee cost more than I'd earned. But I kept going. What choice did I have? I built a survival routine, drive from 6 p.m. to 2 a.m., sleep till noon, eat 1 meal a day at a Pakistani restaurant where the owner gave me extra rice out of kindness. Avoid anywhere I might see someone from my old life. But Hartford's a small city. One night, I picked up Dr. Jennifer Walsh, a former resident of mine. She froze when she heard my voice. Dr. Radford. Dennis. Hello, Jennifer. She didn't speak the entire ride. When we arrived, she got out wordlessly, but left a $100 tip and a note. I'm sorry. We all know it wasn't true. That $100 kept me fed for 2 weeks. I wanted to refuse out of pride, but pride doesn't buy groceries. For 2 years, that was my life. Drive strangers. Collect $300 a week. Sleep. Repeat. I stopped looking in mirrors. Stopped thinking about the future. I simply existed. Then, one cold Tuesday night in November, a ride request popped up Fairfield Avenue. The kind of neighborhood I used to live in, the kind I now avoided. I almost declined. But it was a $40 fare, 2 days of food. The house was a brick mansion with white columns, the kind Beatrice would have loved. An elderly woman stood outside wearing a black wool coat and pearls that shimmered under the streetlights. She moved with quiet confidence, like someone who had never once been told to hurry. She climbed into the back seat with graceful precision. I gave my usual greeting, confirming her destination. She didn't answer at first, just studied my face in the mirror, her eyes sharp, assessing. "Driver," she said finally, her voice carrying that polished, old-money accent that doesn't exist anymore. "What's your name?" "Dennis," I replied, instinctively withholding my last name. "Dennis what?" she pressed. I hesitated. "Just Dennis." She leaned forward slightly. "Dennis Radford." "You're Margaret Pauline Radford's son, are you?" The name hit me like a slap of cold water. No one had said my mother's full name in decades. My father had always called her Margaret, never Pauline. How could this stranger possibly know it? "My mother died when I was 12, I said, gripping the steering wheel. The woman smiled, not mocking, but with a kind of weary compassion. "Oh, Dennis, your mother is very much alive, and I've been searching for you for 3 years." My hand shook so hard I pulled into the parking lot of a closed Walgreens, the single streetlight flickering above us. The woman stayed calm, reaching into her designer bag and pulling out a leather folder. "My name is Constance Drummond," she said, handing me a gold-embossed business card. "I was your mother's business partner and best friend for 42 years. And Dennis, everything you think you know about your life is a lie." I could barely breathe. My mother died of cancer in 1979. My father told me she was sick for months. I saw the death certificate. "Your father forged it." She slid a photograph toward me, and my world tilted. It was my mother. Older, confident, standing before a sleek glass building with Drumpf's Pharmaceuticals gleaming behind her. The date on the photo read 2018. Other pictures followed. My mother at conferences, shaking hands with senators, ringing the NASDAQ bell. "Your mother wasn't a housewife," Constance said. "She was a biochemist with a PhD from MIT. We started Drumpf's Pharmaceuticals in 1978 with a $10,000 loan and 3 patents she developed. By the next year, we'd landed a $1 million contract. That's when Harold, your father, lost control." I swallowed hard. "What are you talking about?" "Harold was a good man, but he couldn't accept his wife being more successful than he was. So while Margaret was away at a conference, he took you, changed your last name to Radford, his mother's maiden name, and vanished." She handed me an old Boston Globe clipping from 1979, pharmaceutical executive's son kidnapped by father in custody dispute. My mother's tearful photo stared back at me. "He told everyone she died. And in a way, he made it true for you." Constance's voice softened. "She never stopped searching. She hired investigators, called in favors, but this was before the internet. He stayed one step ahead, paid in cash, moved constantly, changed schools and addresses until you were untraceable." Another document appeared in her hands. "In 2005, her private investigator finally found you, your medical school graduation. She wanted to reach out, but by then you'd married Beatrice Blackwood. She knew who your father-in-law was and what kind of man he was. So she waited. Quietly, she started buying shares of Blackwood Industries, 15% over 20 years, using shell companies to stay invisible." "Why didn't she just come find me?" I asked, my voice cracking. "She saw you had a good life. Successful. Respected. How could she walk in and shatter everything you believed? She decided to wait for the right time. But when your divorce began, she couldn't stand by anymore." Constance handed me another folder. "This is dated a week before she died. Evidence of Judge Blackwood's corruption, bribes, tax evasion, rigged cases, compiled over 2 decades. She planned to expose him, then reveal herself to you. But a stroke took her first." "When?" I whispered. 3 years ago, March 15th. The same week your divorce was filed. She died holding your medical school graduation photo. Tears I didn't know I still had burned my eyes. She'd been alive. All those years. 2 hours away in Boston. She left you everything, Dennis, her estate worth $47 million. But more importantly, she left you the means to destroy Blackwood. With her shares and the allies she built, You now control 41% of Blackwood Industries. You can remove him from his own company. Constance passed me a final card. Whitman and Associates, estate attorneys. They've been trying to find you for 3 years, but after your name was ruined in the divorce, you'd vanished. No credit cards. No address. No trace, just like your father once did. I promised Margaret I'd find you. It took time, but tonight wasn't an accident. I've been requesting rides here for weeks, hoping you'd be my driver. I looked down at the photos again. My mother's life without me. Brilliant. Lonely. Unrelenting. Did she ever remarry? Have other kids? No. You were her only child. She built everything for you. Not just wealth, but justice. 6 months later, I stood in a federal courthouse in Hartford, but this time I wasn't the one on trial. Judge Cornelius Blackwood sat at the defense table, an ankle monitor barely hidden beneath his designer suit. The FBI had arrested him mid-golf game at his country club, and the photos dominated every front page. The evidence my mother gathered was ironclad: 23 years of bribes, fraud, and racketeering. There were recordings, bank transfers, even hidden camera videos of him taking cash in his study. The defendant is sentenced to 18 years in federal prison, the judge declared. Blackwood's shoulders sagged. Beatrice sobbed beside him, not her usual performance tears, but real ones. The mansion, the cars, the jewelry, gone. Last I heard, she was living in a one-bedroom apartment with Rodney, working as a receptionist. I didn't feel triumph. Only a hollow sense of completion, like I'd finished someone else's mission. But that changed when I stepped outside the courthouse and saw a group waiting for me. Dr. Jennifer Walsh and 14 others from Hartford Medical. "We heard everything, Dennis," she said. "We want you back." The hospital board voted unanimously to reinstate me. Full privileges, full back pay. I appreciated the gesture, but my hands weren't what they once were. 3 years of gripping a steering wheel for 12 hours a day had stolen the precision that once defined me. The steadiness was gone. So instead of returning to the OR, I accepted a teaching position at Yale Medical School. Professor Dennis Radford. My mother would have liked that. With part of my inheritance, I founded the Margaret Pauline Radford Foundation, offering full scholarships to medical students from working-class families, the kind who have to choose between textbooks and dinner. Last year, we sent 12 students through school. This year, 20. I also found my father's grave in Cedar Hill Cemetery. He died alone while I was too busy building a life that wasn't entirely mine. Constance came with me that first visit. "He loved you," she said quietly, standing beside the modest headstone. Margaret knew that. Even after everything, she never hated him. She understood he was just afraid of losing you to her success. He was wrong, but his love was real. Then she told me something I hadn't expected. The day you graduated medical school, Margaret gave an interview about her search for you. Harold saw it. He called her office and said, "You should see what he became, Maggie. You should see our boy." Then he hung up before she could trace the call. Later, I found a recording among my mother's papers, 15 seconds of my father's voice, proud and broken all at once. I keep it on my phone. Sometimes when I drive at night, I listen to it. Yes, I still drive Uber 1 night a week. My accountants think I'm insane, but it keeps me grounded. Last week, I picked up a young woman outside the hospital, still in scrubs, dark circles under her eyes. "Rough night?" I asked. "Residency's killing me," she said. "I'm thinking about quitting. My dad says I'm wasting my life being a doctor when I could join his real estate firm." I smiled. "Can I tell you something? I've been a surgeon. I've been broke. I've been destroyed. And I've been rebuilt. The only thing that matters is whether you're living your life or someone else's version of it." She gave me a curious look. "That sounds like there's a story behind it." "There is," I said. "My mother spent 40 years building an empire because she refused to live the life others expected of her. My father kidnapped me because he couldn't handle her success. My ex-father-in-law destroyed me because I wouldn't follow his rules. But here's what I learned. Sometimes losing everything is the only way to find out who you really are." She was silent for a while. Then, "Do you ever regret becoming a doctor?" "Never," I said. "Not when I lost my license. Not when I was sleeping in a motel that rented rooms by the hour. Being a doctor isn't a job, it's who I am." My mother knew that. She saw me become what she dreamed I could be, even if she couldn't tell me she was watching. When we reached her apartment, she paused before getting out. Thanks. I needed to hear that. One more thing, I called after her. Your father's wrong. You're not wasting your life. You're saving lives. That's worth more than all the real estate in Connecticut. She smiled, closed the door gently, and disappeared inside. The ride cost $12. She tipped $50. Judge Blackwood was right about one thing. I never practiced medicine the same way again. Now I practice it better. I teach students who remind me of myself at that age. Hungry, driven, desperate to matter. I tell them about the surgeon whose hands were insured for $2 million and how he lost everything before discovering that his dead mother had spent 40 years preparing his redemption. I tell them about justice born not from anger, but from patience, from a woman who loved her son enough to buy shares in her enemy's empire. And I tell them this. Your life can be built on lies and still lead to truth. Your family can break you and save you in the same story. You can lose everything that matters and still find what truly does. My name is Dennis Radford. My mother, Margaret Pauline Radford, built an empire while searching for her stolen son. My father, Harold Radford, loved me enough to make the wrong choice for what he thought were the right reasons. I was married to a woman who never loved me and hunted by a man who tried to erase me. But I'm still here, still driving, still teaching, still remembering that sometimes the most important person in your story is the one you thought was gone forever. The Blackwoods believed power may control. My mother knew better. Real power is patience. It's love that waits decades for justice. It's building something that will outlive you. Real power is understanding that justice doesn't always come from a courtroom. Sometimes it comes from the back seat of an Uber, delivered by an 82-year-old woman in pearls with perfect timing and a stack of business cards that rewrite everything you thought you knew about her life. Outro. Thank you for listening to the story of loss, betrayal, and rediscovery, of how truth can become our greatest inheritance. If this story moved you, inspired you, or reminded you that rock bottom can be the foundation for something greater, please like, share, and comment below. Your stories inspire the ones I tell. And remember, sometimes the person who tries to destroy you is really just clearing the path for you to discover who you were always meant to be.